during quarantine. So this will be fun. I have a lot of garlic, so we're gonna make an Italian recipe because filming's fun and this will be good. This is the same recipe that I have posted on Google Classroom. Please read it. Because I'm cooking for like my actual dinner and my actual life, I'm not going to be following it exactly. I'm going to be eyeballing a lot of things and doing it how I like it because I'm the one eating it. So I'm going to be selfish and that's okay. I'm going to go over your ingredients first. You need about 4 tablespoons of olive oil, 4 to 5 cloves of garlic. And one thing that I would like to point out, this is garlic. When it talks about cloves, you need to peel the garlic. And then inside the garlic, once you peel all of it, these little notch things that you can pull out, these are the cloves. This whole thing is not the clove. This is the clove. So you'll need 4 to 5 of those. So you can go ahead and peel off your garlic as you decide to get ready for this recipe, if this is what you choose to make. Now, because I don't expect any of you all to go to the grocery store because, yeah. So if you have fresh garlic, that's fine. You can also use minced garlic. I would suggest Googling what the conversion rate is because minced garlic is stronger than fresh garlic, and you end up usually needing less of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Excellent. So you're going to go ahead and take out 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. Again, they look like this. You will also need parsley. That ideally it's fresh. If you only have dry parsley, that's fine. I happen to have fresh. Rinse it off ahead of time because of sanitation and also just good kitchen rules. And then you'll also need 4 to 5 leaves of basil, unless you really, really like basil, in which case you can add more. And you will also need salt. The recipe itself calls for 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I don't like it that salty, so I'm just gonna eyeball it. And then you'll also need 1 28-ounce can of pre-diced tomatoes, or if you have fresh, you can Google how to dice your own tomatoes after steaming them and things like that. I have canned because this is easier. Okay, so the very first thing that you're going to do is you're going to need a saute pan. This is a saute pan. It should be a little bit larger. And the reason that you need a larger saute pan is because once you end up adding in all of the ingredients, you want to have enough room for it to evenly cook. The very first thing that you're going to want to do before you start heating your oil is you're going to want to chop your garlic and your parsley. I'm going to start with the garlic, so I'm going to move that camera down. Now, there are a couple different ways to do this. You can peel each individual clove of garlic by itself. You can do this by cutting off with your knife. Remember, use knife safety skills. Cutting off the very tip of it and then peeling away that outer skin. That's totally fine. That's a very valid way to do it. However, it takes absolutely forever. And if you want to waste some time during quarantine, chopping garlic like that and peeling it like that, that's fine. We've got time now. It's fine. Once you do that though, once it's all peeled and you don't have any more of that flaky layer on it, once you don't have that little flaky skin on your garlic anymore, now you're going to mince it. And by mincing it, you're going to cut it into very, 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 very tiny pieces. You need them to be tiny, otherwise it's going to be a weird flavor because you're going to get one huge chunk of garlic in there and it's not going to taste good. So in order to mince it, you're going to use your knife safety skills. You're going to make sure that all of your fingers are curled underneath, and you're going to gently rock your knife away from you until you have smaller pieces. See? Then you'll lay those flat on the cutting board, bunch them up, and you're going to do the same thing, except now, because you've already cut them into smaller pieces, you can put your hand or your non-dominant hand on top of the knife, and you're going to gently rock the boat so that way you don't accidentally cut yourself. Now you'll have to do this a few times because like I said, it's not super efficient, but it is fine. If you have a garlic press, you can use it. I don't because they get dirty and they're kind of a pain to clean. So we're just gently rocking the boat over and over and over again. Now keep in mind, this is still 1 clove of garlic, so it's going to take a while. You want really tiny pieces. So even this piece right here is probably too big. So you're going to want to keep doing it for a while longer. It makes it easier if you peel all of your garlic ahead of time and then mince it all at once, just because there's a little bit more to work with. So I am going to show you another way to peel your garlic that doesn't take as long. So peel off any additional skin as much as you can. If it's not perfect, that's fine. Then what you can do is you can lay your garlic on the cutting board, put your knife on top of it, and just smash it a little bit. And that breaks open the skin enough for you to be able to peel it. Now you're not absolutely crushing it, you're just hitting it hard enough to get that skin off. Except it didn't work that time, so that's fun. There we go. And now it's completely peeled. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that into smaller portions, just like I did the last time. Remember to cut gently away from you. Try not to get that stem in there because it's gross and it's hard and it's not going to cook correctly. And now I'm going to do that with my other 3 pieces of garlic. So I prefer the smash method. Smash. But all of my garlic is peeled and all of those little ends are off to the side. I'm going to continue by slicing my garlic first. Be very careful because knives are sharp, in case we don't remember that from last year. And now we're going to continue to mince, where we just rock the boat. And we just do this lots and lots and lots of times. So now that my garlic is all minced, see how small these little pieces are? My hands are gonna smell a lot like garlic. That's roughly the size that you want, and you can go ahead and move it over to the side on your cutting board, because now we're going to chop our parsley. Okay, so now when you go to chop your parsley, ideally you don't want any of the stems on there. You want a small bunch of parsley, but it doesn't need to be a lot. I like parsley, so I am using a lot. So see how there are stems on here? You can just go ahead and cut those right off because you don't need them and they cook weirdly. So just go ahead, chop those right off. If there are still a few stems in there, that's fine. You can always take them out later. The small stems are not what we're worried about. We're worried about these long stems over here. We don't want those. So now, because parsley's a leaf, when you go to chop it, you're just going to do so gently. You're still cutting away from you, but you don't really need to work as hard at it as you did with the garlic. You're just cutting it a little bit, so that way you can release a lot of that really fresh flavor. So I prefer to rock the boat from above the entire time. And you'll notice as things start to get smaller, you can bunch it up a little bit closer and then it gets a little bit easier. All right, and then if you see any big chunks of leaves like that, try to get that right in the middle so that way you can cut it right in half because you don't want giant chunks. You do want it to be chopped. All right, then you can try to scrape the extra off your knife as best you can, but always be safe because of knife safety rules. And then you have those ingredients prepped. Don't have to prep the basil because you're just gonna end up tearing it up with your hands later on. You only need to chop the garlic and the parsley. It's pretty simple. I suggest washing your hands afterward because then this happens. And now my hands smell like garlic and parsley and they're sticky. So I am going to wash my hands. So now what you want to do, I have olive oil poured in this pan. You want it to cover the entire bottom of the pan. And then you are going to turn on your heat to medium heat to start heating, medium to low heat to start heating the olive oil just a little bit, because then eventually you're going to cook things. Yay! First, you're going to add your garlic, and you are going to cook it until it is slightly brown. So, I'm going to do that with my hands, and try not to spill it everywhere. Okay, so now I'm literally just throwing the garlic into the pan. I'm going to saute the garlic. You saute the garlic the same way that you saute every other vegetable, but just stir it for a long time. If you need to turn up the heat to medium, that's fine. That will probably help you, especially if you want to make it faster. Now, while you're stirring and you have time to contemplate all of these random thoughts that you have during the day, now is a good time to contemplate what Mediterranean food is. And Mediterranean food is food that is found around the Mediterranean Sea. Mediterranean food typically uses a lot of olives, such as olive oil. Garlic is very common, same thing with herbs like basil, parsley, things like that, and of course, garlic. So because Italy is near the Mediterranean Sea, if I remember correctly, it actually borders the Mediterranean Sea. Don't quote me on that. I am not a social studies teacher. That's why they use so many of these different ingredients. So that's a little fun food for thought. Now I'm going to pose a question to you while you're just stirring mindlessly like I am. What about this recipe that I am making today is similar or different from the recipes that I posted in the videos yesterday? Garlic is starting to brown a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on low heat and just let it chill there for a second while I open and add my tomatoes. I think canned tomatoes are significantly easier, so that's what we're going to use. I'm going to move this over so that way I can actually open my can of tomatoes. Now what's nice about, what's nice about Italian sauces is that you just throw everything in one place. You just throw everything in this pot and you just let it roll. And it's easy. You throw everything in this one pan. Stir it once you add the tomatoes, as you always do. This is like a one-pan recipe, other than whatever you cook to put on top of this sauce. I will probably make pasta later. We went over pasta last year in 7th grade facts, so I know that you know how to do that. If you want me to make a pasta recipe, I absolutely can. But notice how many tomatoes this is for how much garlic we had. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and turn up my heat to medium. Now, one thing that the recipe does say is that you don't want this to cook for too long, because if it cooks too long, then it gets thick and gross. You want it to be sort of nice and light, maybe a little bit watery. You don't want the water from the tomatoes to evaporate too much, but you do want everything to cook so that way the flavors are evenly incorporated. Your recipe also says to put a lid on this recipe. I don't have a lid for this pot, or for this saute pan. Sorry, I need to use my correct kitchen vocab. I don't have that, so I'm not going to use it. Because we work with what we have. Yes? Yes. Alright. Now that this has been cooking for a little bit, you can wave your hand over the top. If it feels warm, then that means that it's good. I'm going to go ahead and add my parsley. That's all chopped and ready to go. Throw it in there, try to get it evenly coated. And then once you add your parsley, you can go ahead and stir it in. You may notice that your sauce starts to bubble a little bit. That's okay. That's called a simmer. And a simmer means that there are small bubbles. If it starts boiling, which means that there are large bubbles and it starts squirting everywhere, that means that you need to turn the heat down. It's time to add your salt. I have pink Himalayan salt because that's what I have, so that's what I'm using. Add as much or as little as you want. When recipes say to do this to taste, it means your taste, like what you like. That's the nice thing about cooking, is that you can make the things that you enjoy. And I wrote this. Oh. Well, now there's giant pieces of rock salt in here. That's fine. This is called adapting, everyone. That's okay. Maybe it'll dissolve. Or whoever eats this, meaning me, is going to be in a big surprise for that bite that has a giant rock of salt in it. Now I'm also going to add my pepper. Hopefully this one doesn't break. If it does, I'm going to be really sad. Again, just add what you want. I like a fair amount of pepper, so I'm going to add kind of a lot. All right, so this is called a simmer. You'll notice that it's bubbling. And then we're stirring a lot because we want to make sure that these ingredients are very well incorporated. If you want to taste test it, that is absolutely valid. In order to taste test this recipe, you grab a spoon, you grab some sauce, you wait for it to cool because this is bubbling and simmering, which means that it's going to be hot, which means that I do not want you to immediately eat it right out of the sauteed pan. That is a bad decision. But once it cools, then you can try it and see if you need to add any more salt, any more pepper, anything like that. All right, now that it's cooking a little bit more, I'm going to turn down my heat just a little bit. And now I'm going to tear up my basil leaves. You tear these up by hand. The reason that you tear them up instead of chopping them is because of the way that it releases the flavor. So just go ahead, tear it all up. They're going to be pretty big chunks, and that's totally fine. Turn down the heat even more. Add my last few basil leaves. Just rip those in half, then in half again. You don't need to worry about the stems as much for basil leaves because they usually come pre-stemmed. All right, and now we're going to stir those in so that way they cook. Try to make sure that everything is scraped off of the sides. Probably helps if you use a real spoon as opposed to the tool that I'm currently using. And we just keep cooking it for a while. Just let those flavors really seep in. Okay, that's good. I'm glad it turned out. So I didn't get a random bite of rock salt in my spoonful, so that's good. Now, if you decide that you wanted to add something else, you absolutely could. You could add if you wanted to add more seasonings, more flavors, if you wanted to add garlic powder or onion powder or something like that, you absolutely could, but you do not have to. And this is the finished product. It's sauce. Then you can put this over meatballs, you can put it over pasta, you can put it over chicken parmesan. Whatever you choose to make is what you can do with this sauce. So, yeah. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. Sorry that this was incredibly awkward. Hopefully it will get better because this is how I'm teaching now. So, bear with me. Maybe I'll even get a better camera quality. Maybe I'll figure out how to use my phone or something because I think this camera's quality on my work computer is a potato. So that'll be fun. So thank you for watching, and I appreciate it, and I will hopefully see you all soon. Bye!